Hey there guys, GT5Man21 here, and today here is your review of the Chinese Grand Prix coming from the Shanghai International Circuit. Now you may be wondering, for two things. Number one, you may be wondering, hang on, the Chinese Grand Prix was last week, you're late. And I am late, and I do apologise for that, but there was a reason for that. I just never got around to doing it last week. One, because of laziness, and number two, well, two things actually. Laziness. Two, I'm back in education now, only for 3 weeks before I go on study leave. Can't wait. And thirdly, I was just trying to fix that issue which I had on episode 8 of the All Stars F1 career mode. It's now called that, and I'm really sorry about that. So anyway, let's. Number two, you may be wondering, the great gameplay in the backgrounds, graphics look awfully tiny bit different. And that's because it is. And that's because this is taken on me and my auntie's Xbox 360. Yes, I have a shared Xbox 360 with my auntie. My auntie's a bit of a gamer herself. She likes to play a little bit of Resident Evil and a bit of Lara Croft herself. But that's not the point. I hope to do some Xbox 360 gameplay very soon, along with Xbox One, which I'm hopefully going to get very, very soon. But that's not the point. Let's get on to this review. It's only for this week, this Xbox 360 gameplay. But also, if it is a bit laggy, I do apologise. I think with Elgato's, it needs to get used to a console before it runs properly. So if it is a bit laggy, I do apologise. But let's get on to the review. Now, in qualifying, as we know, it was wet, and it was very entertaining. People were aquaplaning, and it could mean that there was going to be a shake-up in the order. Apart from the Mercedes, there's a shake-up, and that's exactly what we got. So, in Q1, the 6 people who got knocked out were Esteban Gutierrez, Kamui Kobayashi, Jules Bianchi, Marcus Ericsson, Max Chilton, and Pastor Maldonado, who did not set a time because he had a problem in practice 3, which was unable to get fixed for qualifying, so it meant he started last. That was Q1. Q2, there was still some aquaplaning, especially some people going onto the wrong tyres, which was kind of weird. But the big surprise of Q2 was both McLarens got knocked out for the first time since last year, at some point last year, which was massively disappointing. Obviously, they don't like the wet, but also they don't seem to like China that much. I do personally, though, think it's the front wing that they've got. There was nothing wrong with it when it came to Melbourne. Then they did a good job in Melbourne with the old front wing. Then they went to Malaysia, changed it, and the cars just got worse. So I'd rather have them bring back the old front wing, because it got them somewhere. But, it's Spain next, so, but I'm going off track. Another surprise was Kimi Räikkönen. He also got knocked out as well. He couldn't set a good time as well. So the 6 people that got knocked out were Kimi Räikkönen, Jenson Button, Daniel Kvyat, Adrian Sutil, Kevin Magnussen, and Sergio Perez. Sergio Perez also a shock. After that brilliant third place he had in Bahrain, he only qualified 16th because of the wet conditions in China. So we had a top 10, and for the first time since Brazil last year, in fact, the Lotus of Romain Grosjean finally got it into Q3. Lotus are finding something. But they didn't do much. They could only manage 10th. So they were pretty much out of the question. From the looks of it, I was wanting you to keep an eye out on Fernando Alonso. He was doing well, but he could only manage 5th in the wet conditions, ahead of his former teammate Felipe Massa. It seemed to me, though, that the Red Bulls were again quick in the wet conditions, and were always wanting to challenge the Mercedeses. And both Red Bulls managed to split them. Nico Rosberg could only manage P4 thanks to a mistake on his last lap. Ricciardo qualified 2nd with Sebastian Vettel 3rd. However, once again, none of them could beat Brit Lewis Hamilton, who took his, I don't know what pole it was, I think it's about his 30th pole position now, because he equalled Jim Clark the last time he took pole position. So So that was it. Lewis Hamilton took pole position again by, I don't know actually. Sorry about this, but anyway, the top 10 was Lewis Hamilton was on pole. Let's go through the order. So Lewis Hamilton took pole position with Daniel Ricciardo second. Sebastian Vettel was an impressive third, with Nico Rosberg fourth. Fernando Alonso was fifth, with Felipe Massa sixth. Valtteri Bottas seventh, with Nico Hulkenberg eighth. Jean-Eric Vergne ninth, with Romain Grosjean 10th. His former teammate Kimi Raikkonen could only manage 11th, with Jenson Button, who could only manage 12th. Daniel Kvyat was 13th, with Adrian Sutil 14th. Kevin Magnussen 15th, with Sergio Perez 16th. Esteban Gutierrez 17th, with Kamui Kobayashi 18th. Jules Bianchi 19th, Marcus Ericsson 20th, Max Chilton 21st, and Pastor Maldonado 22nd. Maldonado also had a 5-place grid penalty for his actions, but because he was last, it didn't make a difference. So, let's get to the race, and it was dry. So, could Fernando Alonso get up there? That was a question. So, the race started, and Lewis Hamilton got a fantastic start. He got off the line well, but it was a bad start for Sebastian Vettel, I believe. Daniel Ricciardo got him sent up to second at this rate, but it was a bad start for Nico Rosberg. He dropped back after being bogged down at the start. He dropped to about 7th. Disappointing there. But Lewis Hamilton managed to get a comfy lead at the front. There was contact between Alonso and Massa. Luckily, the pair of them not getting any damage and not taking themselves out of the race. They didn't spin at all, so that was good to see. But there was contact further back with Rosberg, and I believe it might have been Valtteri Bottas. I can't remember who he spun off, but Rosberg was lucky not to get any damage, whereas the other one had to repair a puncture. So Lewis Hamilton built up a healthy lead. Fernando Alonso had also made a good start as well. The race got into it, and we already had our first retirement on lap 5. Once again, Sauber suffering from reliability as Adrian Sutil once again retired, not having a good year. Like I said, guys, I can only remember roughly what it is, so I do apologise if this review isn't that brilliant, because it was last week and I've got a rigid mind. So the race continued on, and it seemed to me that Ferrari seemed to have a good edge. Fernando Alonso was battling with Daniel Ricciardo. But also a good surprise as well was Nico Rosberg. He was moving it up it wasn't really a surprise, but Nico Rosberg was making it back through the field after his terrible start. He picked up the cars one by one by one. And even the pit stops, he was pretty good. So, sorry about this, guys. I'm having awkward pauses for some reason. The race quietly got in, and the first round of stops were being made. Later on in the race, though, we then had our second retirement. Romain Grosjean retired. It seemed to me Lotus had sorted out their gremlins, but obviously not with Romain Grosjean. He retired on lap 28 with gearbox issues. Adrian Sutil retired with an engine issue. Once again, Nico Rosberg was picking off the pace one by one. He even got up to the back of the 2 Red Bulls. He was absolutely flying. Fernando Alonso, after his second stop, had managed to leapfrog both Red Bulls and moved himself up to second place. Lewis Hamilton was completely dominating the race, so he pretty much ran away with it. But then there was, once again, some famous Red Bull team messages. Some team orders happening. Only this time, for the second race in a row, Sebastian Vettel was told to let Daniel Ricciardo through as he was on a quicker strategy. Sebastian Vettel, though, refused, as he said, "What tyres is he on?" The team said he was on primes, the same tyres as yours, but they said his is much fresher and he was going quicker than you. He said, "Tough." Last year it was multi-21. This year, though, it's tough. He has to pass myself. He still refused a lap later, but eventually Daniel Ricciardo got past anyway. I don't know whether Sebastian Vettel actually let him through or not, but whether he did remains a mystery. It seemed to me that Sebastian Vettel was off pace, because clearly he then got overtaken by a backmarker of Kamui Kobayashi. He was thinking what on earth was going on, and even the backmarker himself, Kamui Kobayashi, wouldn't let him back through. It's, well, Yeah, it was ridiculous. He wouldn't let him through until the Caterham came into the pitch, which was not long after he overtook him. The second round of stops came, and Rosberg was absolutely flying out there. He managed, after his second pit stop and after Ricciardo's second pit stop as well, he managed to leapfrog both Red Bulls of Vettel and Ricciardo. Rosberg was absolutely flying after his terrible start and was beginning to catch up to Fernando Alonso. He was absolutely going for it, and he eventually passed him with not that many laps to go, which was good for him. McLaren were having a woeful day as the pair of them just couldn't get in the points. Massa did not even have a good race. Although now I come to think of it, it was actually Massa who dropped back. Massa dropped back and could only manage 15th because he had a delay on his tyre in the pit stop, his second round of pit stops, which was disappointing for him. Maldonado passed Gutierrez cleanly this time, not tipping him up. It looks like he has learned from last week, hopefully. But at the end, it was Lewis Hamilton who dominated the race and went on to win the Chinese Grand Prix. Well, when I say win, he won a little bit earlier because there was a little bit of an issue with a checkered flag as it accidentally came out on lap 55. According to this, it was on lap 54, but it came out way too early, and which was a bit weird. But the rule says on Article 43.2 of the sporting regulations that if the checkered flag comes out accidentally, like a lap before it's supposed to finish, they have to class it as the race finish. They have to end the race. But luckily, there was no changes. The only changes that there was that did not happen and was reverted back was the Jules Bianchi with Kamui Kobayashi overtaking Jules Bianchi. But because the checkered flag came out before he even overtook him, that did not classify. So Bianchi got back ahead of Kobayashi. But the rest of the order, it didn't matter. So Lewis Hamilton went on to win the race by 18 seconds ahead of a fantastic comeback from Nico Rosberg. After being bogged down at the start, he managed to get it back up to second place and made sure he retained his lead by only 3 points. Fernando Alonso showed that the Ferrari has finally got some pace again. Thanks to their new boss, Mario Marchetti, I think you can pronounce his last name. He finished in 3rd position. Daniel Ricciardo finished 4th, with Sebastian Vettel 5th, Nico Hülkenberg 6th, Valtteri Bottas 7th, Kimi Räikkönen finished 8th, with Sergio Perez 9th, and Daniel Kvyat getting another point in his debut in 10th. So, very good result then for Lewis Hamilton. Once again, just completely, dominating the race. Let's have a look at the Drivers' Championship, and sorry, it's actually 4 points. Nico Rosberg still leads by 4 points ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Fernando Alonso moves up to 3rd thanks to his 3rd place, with Nico Hülkenberg 4th. Sebastian Vettel moves up to 5th, with Daniel Ricciardo moving up to 6th. Valtteri Bottas is tied with him in 7th, with Jenson Button 8th. Kevin Magnussen is in 9th, with Sergio Perez 10th. Felipe Massa 11th, with Kimi Räikkönen 12th. Jean-Eric Vergne 13th, and Daniel Kvyat tied with him in 14th. And the other 8 that are still yet to get off the scoring board are Romain Grosjean, Adrian Sutil, Esteban Gutierrez, Max Chilton, Kamui Kobayashi, Pastor Maldonado, Marcus Ericsson, and Jules Bianchi. In the Constructors' Championship, Mercedes increased their lead. They are nearly 100 points ahead of Red Bull. They are 97 points clear from them. Impressive, eh? Red Bull have moved up to 2nd, with Force India dropping down to 3rd. Ferrari stayed in 4th, with McLaren dropping way down in 5th. Williams is 6th, with Toro Rosso in 7th. And the other 4 that are still yet to get off the points scoring board are Lotus, Sauber, Marussia, and Caterham. So, what do I think of this result? Well, it wasn't going to be as exciting as Bahrain, but I still think it was better than Bahrain. Not Bahrain, Malaysia, because there was so much going on, not just at the front, but also, apart from Lewis Hamilton, front, mid, and back. And with that little checkered flag issue, that was a bit weird, but still, it was a good race nonetheless. Now, if I recorded this last week, then the next race would be... Well, actually, before I get onto that, I got my pole position wrong. I said Nico Rosberg for pole position, which didn't happen. It was Lewis Hamilton. But I got the win correct. Lewis Hamilton took the win. His third consecutive win. The first time he's ever done it in his career. And he is the first guy to get 3 wins in China. He was the first guy to get 2 wins in China, and he's now the first guy to get 3 wins in China. Well done, Lewis. Congratulations. Now, back to the subject. If I recorded this last week, then I would say that the Spanish Grand Prix would be on in 3 weeks' time, so the series would come back in 3 weeks. But, because this is a week late, which I do apologise for, this series will come back in 2 weeks. So the Spanish Grand Prix is on in 2 weeks' time, as I'm recording it today, a week after the Chinese Grand Prix. So this series will be back in 2 weeks, and while that's going on, they're off to Europe again for the Spanish Grand Prix. So the teams have got an opportunity to put some upgrades on their cars so they can try and beat the Mercedes. I want to see if McLaren can do a better job, because since they did a good job in Melbourne, but since Malaysia they just seem to drop. So they need to do something to retain the pace again like they had in Melbourne. Ferrari, I believe, will be teams to watch, because especially Fernando Alonso after his Chinese Grand Prix, if he can do a good job, if they can get some parts onto that Ferrari, then we should see a challenge at the front. Not always having a Mercedes at the front this time, but we could also see a different team challenging them for the lead, specifically Fernando Alonso. Also, if Red Bull can do a good job, then maybe Daniel Ricciardo can finally get his first win and first podium. Maybe Sebastian Vettel as well, but we'll just have to wait and see, because at the moment it looks like, despite Vettel being ahead of Ricciardo in the championship, it seems to me that Ricciardo has got better pace than Vettel. But it's early days, we just have to see. So, they also have the motorhome. So, put down in the comments what you think of this race. And, tell me who you're looking forward to. Which team are you looking to see making massive improvements? To me, I'm looking for Ferrari to have a huge improvement. Maybe Red Bull. Mercedes to maintain their pace. McLaren to do something about the lack of pace recently. Maybe put that front wing back on that they had in Melbourne. And maybe, because of what we've seen from Lotus, like developing every race, especially in the qualifying, maybe sometimes in the race, I think we could see them, because Maldonado finally got a okay result for Lotus. Maybe we can see them getting, maybe not near the front just yet, but maybe somewhere challenging where the Williams and Force Indias are at the moment. I know they're sometimes near the front, but they're like at the mid-pack so far. So maybe if they can get a good car, if they can get some parts in, then they could probably challenge with Williams and Force India. I seriously want McLaren to go back up to where they were in Melbourne, because where is it gone? That front wing is ridiculous. So yeah, tell me what you think in the comments, and until next time, I've been GT5Man21, this has been your review, and I will talk to you guys later. Cheers.